letter that starts this way, quote, "This was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, but I failed you. I tried my best and gave it all the gumption I could muster. It is up to you now to finish the job, and I will offer $150,000 to whomever can complete the job." Routh allegedly wrote these words at least several months before September 15th, when he, prosecutors say, pointed a rifle in the direction of the former president as he was golfing. Court documents say the letter was in a box that Routh left with an unnamed person who opened it in the days after the assassination attempt. With us now to discuss, we have CNN senior law enforcement analyst Andrew McCabe and defense attorney Misty Maris. Let's begin, though, with CNN's Caitlin Polance. Caitlin, this hearing that has been going on for quite some time. Tell us what's happening.
Yeah, it's been 2 hours and 20 minutes since this hearing was supposed to start in court in Florida. We have no word on what has happened so far in court because there's no cameras there and there's such heavy security around that building. No in and out. Nobody can be coming out to tell us what's happening. What's going on in that hearing, though, as far as we know, is prosecutors are trying to convince a magistrate judge sitting in this federal court that Ryan Routh should stay behind bars. Right now, he's facing 2 charges around possession of a firearm, but they haven't taken the additional evidence through the grand jury to indict him. And all they've done so far this morning is file this 10-page report of other evidence that they're gathering. They say it's not everything that they have, but what they think should be enough to keep him behind bars as they continue investigating, continue to consider additional charges against Ryan Routh, and the need to potentially take him to trial. They even said in their filing that they did not set forth all of the information and evidence they have known. And prosecutors are very likely pointing out to the judge all of this other stuff they've found about Ryan Routh, all of the planning he apparently did to place himself at Mar-a-Lago for quite some time, seemingly waiting for Donald Trump to arrive there.
And Andy, we also learned a few more details. We'd already known some about how events played out on the day of September 15th on the golf course, but prosecutors revealed that Routh had this direct line on the 6th hole green, which was the next hole that Trump would have played, presumably would have been standing still at some point doing that to putt. He had, Routh, a list of these dates and venues that Caitlin was detailing where Trump was expected to appear in the lead up to the presidential election. How does that go towards more potential charges?
Well, Brianna, so their challenge, today's challenge, of course, as Misty laid out, is to keep him locked up. And for all the reasons she mentioned, I think they'll be successful in that effort. The longer term issue is, what are they going to charge him with beyond these 2 firearms offenses? Excuse me. They certainly want to get to an attempted assassination charge. It's a little bit challenging under the federal code because he wasn't the president at the time. So there's sort of different laws that you have to look to there. But all the evidence you mentioned goes directly to intent. They have to show that his intent that day was to actually assassinate former President Trump. He didn't take any specific actions. He didn't fire a shot and miss or try to attack him or something like that. So they have a little bit of a hurdle to get over there. The letter will be really devastating evidence against Routh in that regard. I think also of interest is the fact that we now know he was in the area for a month and was seen, of course, near Mar-a-Lago, which is the president's residence, and other places in the area. This goes to answering those questions we had on day one about how did he know to be in that place at that time. And many of us suspected he probably knew it from doing very rudimentary surveillance. It's not a hard thing to figure out. The president is very predictable in his movements and going to his golf clubs at the same time on Sundays when he's in town. So that picture, I think, is really starting to come together for prosecutors as well. And it answers the question to some extent as to whether or not he had any help with that intelligence. At this point, the answer looks like no.
So Ryan Routh will appear in a West Palm Beach courtroom today at 11 a.m. Eastern time. This is the DOJ releases this letter from Routh where he says, quote, this was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Now, this letter came from a civilian that contacted police after they say Routh dropped off a box at their house several months prior to the attempt. After learning of the incident, the witness opened this box and found ammunition with the letter that also says he will offer $150,000 to whoever can, quote, complete the job if he failed. The DOJ also saying Routh had 6 cell phones and 2 license plates, and his internet history revealed he looked up Trump locations into October and had to travel from Palm Beach to Mexico. Last week, he was charged with possession of a firearm by a convicted felon and possession of a firearm with an obliterated serial number. The charges came after a Secret Service agent noticed what appeared to be a rifle poking out of a chain-link fence at former President Trump's Florida golf course while Trump was golfing. The Secret Service agent fired in that direction of the rifle. A witness spotted Routh then fleeing from the area, and he was arrested shortly after.